All right, hey, what's up, y'all? So, coming out of the past 2 weeks, I wanted to just do a brief overview of where we're at with everything and what our goals should have been up to this point and what our new goals are going forward for the next 2 weeks. All right. So, remember the past 2 weeks, our goal was to experiment with low carb as much as we felt comfortable with it. And for some of us, maybe we're still just working on the basics. So I think it's helpful to review this little progression, starting with the bare minimums, working our way up to where we are right now and seeing where you're meeting this. Okay, so remember, our biggest goal overall is to eat within the SHT guidelines, making sure that everything you consume is made with the right ingredients and that you're being strategic with your carbohydrate consumption, meaning that you're consuming your carbs later in the day from real food sources in moderated amounts, and that we're nurturing natural space in between meals with no snacking. All right, so that's the bare minimum, and that's what we want everyone to be shooting for every single day. All right. The next step up from that, which I think is what's most optimal for us long term, is being 100% fresh real food, meaning turning to those approved options minimally or occasionally, and then of course still being strategic with our carbohydrates, still nurturing space in between meals, and maybe moving towards 2 meals per day with no snacking, and for most of us that would be skipping breakfast, and then maybe experimenting with a little bit of fasting protocols. All right, so that's the second level. I think that's the best place for most of us to be long term. All right, so the third step would be where we were these past 2 weeks. If we were ready for it, we wanted to experiment with a little bit of low carb. All right, so low carb according to us, which would mean pulling out the dominant sources of starch and sugar, the safe starches, the fruits, the honeys, the sweets, and things like that, and getting as many of those days under our belt as possible so that we could see how it feels to be low carb, to prove to ourselves that we can do it, and to see if it's something that works for us. All right, and then if we were successful with attempting low carb for a little bit, at this point in the progression, what we want to do is learn how to reintroduce foods with awareness, and specifically we'd be reintroducing the safe starches with awareness, and then also just discuss the importance of always going without something and developing a honed intuition about what's good for our body by going through this process of pulling things out for a little bit, and then when we bring them back in, noticing how it makes us feel. All right, so that's kind of where we're at with things, all right? And you got to meet that where you feel comfortable. All right, remember we have a lifetime to experiment with this. We feel like the flow of this progression is very doable for a lot of people, but again, you got to meet this where you're at, all right? So if you were able to attempt low carb to any degree over the past 2 weeks, now what we want to do is learn about our safe starches and what makes them safe, and then learn how to reintroduce those safe starches with awareness, with self-testing, and this is also awareness and self-testing that you can use as you reintroduce anything in the future. And then we also want to talk about going without something and working off a list of things that eventually we always want to start chipping away at going without these different things. And that includes things like dairy and nightshades and nuts and seeds and eggs and a bunch of other stuff, okay? So that's kind of where we're at with things. And I have several little mini videos covering each one of these topics: the safe starches, the how to reintroduce and self-test, the importance of going without and developing this honed intuition. And so for the next 2 weeks, that's our goal, all right? So it is really just learning about the safe starches, learning how to reintroducing the safe starches with awareness, and then starting to work off of this list of other things that we want to experiment with, all right? So if you have any questions whatsoever, just let us know. We are here for you, all right? And then just pay attention to those other few videos, all right? Later, y'all.